Welcome to Rust tutorial number 6. In this video, you will learn how to create custom data types using structs and how to add behavior to them with methods. If you have used classes in other languages, structs will feel familiar. But Rust has no classes. Instead, structs with impl blocks give you the same power without inheritance. A struct groups related data together into a single type. You define it with the struct keyword, followed by named fields with their types. Each field has a name and a type, similar to a data class in Kotlin or a class in Python. This is the foundation of custom types in Rust, and you will use structs in almost every Rust program you write. To create an instance, you provide a value for every field. There is no null or undefined in Rust. Every field must have a value when you create the struct. You access fields with dot notation, just like in most other languages. This makes Rust safer because you can never have partially initialized data. If you want to change a field, the entire struct instance must be mutable. You cannot make individual fields mutable on their own. This is different from most languages where you pick and choose which fields can change. In Rust, mutability is all or nothing for the entire struct. Rust has two shortcuts that save you typing. Field init shorthand lets you skip the field name when the variable name matches. Struct update syntax lets you create a new struct from an existing one, changing only some fields. The double dot syntax copies all remaining fields from the original struct. Now let us add behavior to our structs using impl blocks. Methods are functions defined inside an impl block. The first parameter is always self, which refers to the instance the method is called on. You call methods with dot notation, just like you would call a method on an object in other languages. The first parameter of a method determines how it accesses the struct. Ampersand self means immutable borrow for reading data. Ampersand mut self means mutable borrow for modifying data. And plain self takes ownership, consuming the struct. Most methods use ampersand self. Use mut self only when you need to change data. Associated functions live in an impl block but do not take self as a parameter. You call them with double colon syntax instead of dot notation. The most common associated function is new, which acts as a constructor. There is no special new keyword in Rust. It is just a naming convention that the community follows. Tuple structs have fields, but no field names. You access fields by index using .0, .1, and so on. They are useful for simple wrappers around existing types. Even if two tuple structs wrap the same underlying type, they are different types. This is called the new type pattern, and it prevents you from mixing up types. Rust can automatically implement common traits using the Derive attribute. Debug lets you print with the question mark format specifier. Clone lets you create copies with the clone method. PartialEq lets you compare values with the double equals operator. You add these above your struct definition. Here is a table of the most common Derive macros. Debug enables debug printing. Clone enables explicit copying. PartialEq enables equality checks. EQ marks full equality. Hash lets you use the type as a hashmap key. Default provides a default value. And copy enables implicit copying for stack types. The display trait gives you user-friendly output with the curly brace format specifier. Unlike debug, you cannot derive display. You must implement it manually because Rust does not know how you want your type to look to users. You implement it by writing a fmt method that calls the right macro. You can split methods across multiple impl blocks for the same type. This is useful for organizing your code into logical groups. Some developers put constructors in one block and methods in another. The compiler treats them all as part of the same type regardless of how many blocks you use. Structs can either own their data or borrow it. For beginners, always use own types like string instead of string slices. Structs with references need lifetime annotations, which we will cover in a future tutorial. Using own types is simpler and avoids dealing with lifetimes early on. Let us put everything together with a bank account struct. It has an owner field and a balance field. We add a constructor with the new associated function, a deposit method that takes mutable self, and a withdraw method that returns a Boolean to indicate success or failure. The withdraw method checks if the amount is valid and if there are enough funds. If both conditions are true, it subtracts the amount and returns true. Otherwise, it returns false. This pattern of returning a Boolean or result for operations that can fail is very common in Rust. We also implement the display trait for our bank account. This lets us print it with println using curly braces. The fmt method formats the account as a string showing the owner name and balance with 2 decimal places. Now we can use our bank account with all the features we have learned. In the main function, we create a mutable bank account, make a deposit, and attempt a withdrawal. Each operation prints the account state. Notice how we must declare the account as mutable because deposit and withdraw both need to modify the balance. This is Rust's ownership system, keeping us safe. Let us review what we covered. Structs group related data with named fields. Impl blocks add methods and associated functions. Tuple structs create simple wrapper types. Derive macros auto-implement common traits. Display gives you custom printing. And methods use self, self, or mut self to control access. In the next tutorial, we learn enums and pattern matching. While structs give every value the same fields, enums let a value be one of several different kinds. Combined with the match expression, enums become one of Rust's most powerful features. See you in the next video.